10 inmates escaped from New Orleans jail. I've been seeing this all over social media, man. Let's get into it and see how they did everything.
New Orleans, a 10-man broke out of a New Orleans jail early Friday in an overnight escape by fleeing through a hole behind a toilet and scaling a wall while the lone guard assigned to their cell pod was away getting food, authorities said. 8 of the escapees, including a murderer and a man charged with murder, remain on the lam after the breakout, which the sheriff says may have been aided by members within her department. Surveillance video shared with reporters during a news conference showed the escapees sprinting out of the facility, some wearing orange clothing and others in white. They scaled a fence, using blankets to avoid being cut by barbed wire, and some sprinted across the nearby interstate and into a neighborhood. A photograph obtained by the Associated Press from law enforcement shows the opening behind a toilet in a cell through which the men escaped. Above the hole are scrawled messages that include "to easy law" with an arrow pointing at the gap. The absence of the 10 escapees, who also took advantage of facility deficiencies that officials have long complained about, went unnoticed for hours. It was not until a routine morning head count, more than 7 hours later, that law enforcement learned of the jailbreak. Officials from the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office say no deputy was at the pod where the fugitives had been held. A civilian technician was there to observe the pod, but she had stepped away to get food, they said. Soon after the escape, one of the men, Kendall Miles, 20, was apprehended after a brief foot chase through the French Quarter. He had previously escaped twice from juvenile detention centers. By Friday evening, another fugitive, Robert Moody, 21, had been captured, according to the sheriff's office.
And some of these dudes are dumb. Like, one of them went live on Instagram at his house.
Found him in New Orleans thanks to a Crime Stoppers tip. 8 defective locks blamed. Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson said the men were able to get out of the Orleans Justice Center because of defective locks. Hudson said she has frequently raised concerns about the locks to officials and, as recently as this week, advocated for money to fix the ailing infrastructure. Hudson said there were indications that people in her department helped the fugitives escape. It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help, she said of the jail, where 1,400 people are being held. The escapees yanked open a door to enter the cell with the hole around 1 a.m. At least one of the steel bars protecting plumbing fixtures appeared to have been intentionally cut using a tool, according to an Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office statement Friday night. The men shed their jail uniforms once out of the facility, and it was unclear how some of them obtained regular clothing so quickly, officials said. Authorities did not notice the men were missing until 8:30 a.m. Authorities initially said 11 had escaped, but at a Friday afternoon news conference said one man thought to have escaped was in a different cell. 3 employees have been placed on suspension pending the outcome of the investigation. It was not immediately clear whether any of the employees were suspected of helping with the escape. Officials also didn't say whether the guard who left to get food was among the 3 suspended. Who are the fugitives? The escapees range in age from 19 to 42. Most of the men are in their 20s. Derek Groves was convicted of 2 charges of second-degree murder and 2 charges of attempted second-degree murder last year for his role in the 2018 Mardi Gras Day shootings of 2 men. He also faces a charge of battery against a correctional facility employee, court records show. Law enforcement warned that he may attempt to find witnesses in his murder trial. Another escapee, Corey Boyd, had pleaded not guilty to a second-degree murder charge. Hudson said her office was working with local, state and federal law enforcement agencies to search for the fugitives. Authorities relied on facial recognition technology to identify and capture one fugitive, said Brian Laugard, executive director of Project NOLA, a nonprofit operating more than 5,000 cameras around New Orleans. His organization, which partners with Louisiana authorities, entered the escapees' images into the system and quickly found 2 in the French Quarter, he said. They were walking openly in the street. They were keeping their heads down and checking over their shoulder, Laugard said, adding that one fugitive walked out of sight of the cameras. Jail authorities criticized leading prosecutors castigated authorities for the jailbreak. This represents a complete failure of the most basic responsibilities entrusted to a sheriff or jail administrator, Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams said. He criticized the sheriff's office for the multi-hour delay in notifying authorities and the public of the escape. These inexcusable failures have put lives in danger. Louisiana Attorney Jen Liz Morrill called the escape beyond unacceptable and said local authorities waited too long to inform the public. She said she reached out to surrounding states to alert them about the escape. New Orleans Police Department Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick said her agency has put a full court effort into responding to the escape and was working with the FBI and the U.S. Marshals Service. Officers were focused on identifying and providing protection for people who may have testified in the fugitives' cases or may be in danger. One family has been removed from their home, Kirkpatrick said. If there is anyone helping or harboring these escapees, you will be charged, Kirkpatrick added. Turmoil at the jail.
Imagine having to leave your crib because these folks let the mugs escape. First of all, I don't think you have to. I think you can willingly leave or stay. Me personally, not leaving my crib. I promise you, if they run up over here trying to play, they
New
get
Orleans
flamed.
jail has
They
for
ain't
more
gonna
than a
make
decade
it
been
back to
subject
jail.
to federal monitoring and a consent decree intended to improve conditions. Security problems and violence persisted even after the city opened the Orleans Justice Center in 2015, replacing the decaying Orleans Parish Prison, which had seen its own string of escapes and dozens of in-custody deaths. A federal judge in 2013 declared that the lockup had degraded into an unconstitutional setting for people incarcerated there. Hudson said her staff is stretched thin at the facility, which is about 60% staffed. By Anka Brown, chief financial officer of the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, said the facility can't afford a maintenance and service contract to fix problems such as broken doors, lock replacements and other ailing infrastructure. The jail contained numerous high-security people convicted of violent offenses who required a restrictive housing environment that did not exist, said Jay Mallett, Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office Chief of Corrections.
So it sounds like they just need to go ahead and shut that whole place down. Y'all ain't got nothing for the high crime inmates, like for people who murder and robbery, the high level crimes and stuff. Y'all ain't even got that, and y'all got broken doors. So what about the people who work there? First of all, I wouldn't be working there, no way. But what about the people who work there? You see what I'm saying? So at any moment they could get cracked upside the head by an inmate or stabbed up because the doors are broken. And what if the inmate like breaks it the night before while nobody's in there, waits for the guard to come back, the guard not knowing the door's broke, he just busts out and starts stabbing the guard. And they don't got guns. The most they got is like mace and I think a taser maybe. But what's that gonna do when he has an actual some type of metal shard wrapped up with some paper towel or not paper towel or a shirt or some tape or something, and this thing is basically a knife and he's stabbing you with it? That's not gonna do nothing. He's got something lethal. You got non-lethal. That's stupid. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video. I'm gone.